Hello mathematicians! Today we're going to be learning about whole numbers, and more specifically we're going to do addition with whole numbers. So to start us off, we're going to do addition that does not require for us to carry over or regroup. So when we carry over or regroup, that's when we have two numbers that equal to a value that's greater than 10, so we're going to have to move that over to the next place value. However, first let's do an example without that, so then we could discuss what it looks like to carry over or regroup. Okay, whichever term you're more comfortable with using, they mean the same thing, right? So our first example is going to be 1,250 plus 37,419. All right, so when we're adding whole numbers, it's very important that we line up our place values. So I added our chart just to help us out a little bit. All right, so as you see here, our numbers are in the correct place value, and that makes it a little bit easier for us to add and make sure we don't make a mistake, okay? So once our numbers are lined up by place value, we're going to start with the smallest place value, which in this case is 1, and we're going to add going down and then move on to the left when we're done. So starting off in the ones place, here we have 0 plus 9, and we know that 0 plus 9 is equal to 9. So that's it. We're done with the ones place value. Now we're going to move on to the tens place value, and in the tens place value we have 5 and we have 1. So just be mindful that that 5 actually represents 50 and that 1 represents 10, right? But 5 plus 1 together add up to 6, and because that's in the tens, just remember and be mindful that that value is 60. All right, so just think that along the way as you add. So we're moving on to our next place value, which is our hundreds place value, and here we have 2 and we have 4. So again, 200 and 400. So our 2 plus 4 gives us 6, and now the value of this 6 is 600. And then we're going to keep moving on to the left to our thousands place. So again, here that 1 represents 1,000, that 7 represents 7,000, and that 1 plus that 7 gives us 8, which gives that 8 a value of 8,000. Finally, we're going to move on to the 10,000s. If you notice, one of our numbers does have a value in the 10,000s place, and the other one does not. So if it makes it easier for you to add a 0, you can, but you do not have to. So here we have nothing plus 3, which ends up just giving us 3. All right, so 1,250 plus 37,419 equals 38,669. All right, and now we're going to move on to our next example. And our next example, we're going to carry over, regroup. Those terms mean the same thing, and you could use whichever one you feel more comfortable using. Just know that they mean the same thing. And for this example, we're going to use 805,959 plus 4,789. And again, it's very important that we line up our place values. So here I did add the chart to help us line them up. And once you're more comfortable doing so, you don't have to use the chart, but here our numbers are, okay? And even though we're going to end up carrying over in this example, we start the exact same way. So we're going to start with our ones place value, which has a 9 and a 9, and we're going to add those up together. So we know that 9 plus 9 is equal to 18. So 18, we have 8 in the ones place, and we have the 10, so 8 and 10. The 10, the 1 is in the tens place. So what that ends up doing is we write our 8 in the ones place because that's where it belongs, but then our 1, we carry it over because that value should be in the tens place. That value represents 10 and 18, so that's why we carry it over. All right? And so now when we move on to add in our tens place, we're going to be mindful that now we have our 1 there, we have a 5, and we have an 8. So that represents 10, 50, and 80. And we have to make sure that we add all 3 of those together. So 1 plus 5 plus 8 ends up giving us 14. Now that 4 is in our tens place because, again, remember, it's like adding 10, 50, and 80, and those together would give us 140, right? So 1 plus 5 plus 8 gives us 14. The 4 and 140 stays in our tens place, and then we carry over the 1, all right? And we're going to end up doing the same thing here. We're going to move on to our hundreds place value. And here we have 1, 9, and 7. Remember, that represents 100, 900, 700, okay? And when we add those together, 1 plus 9 plus 7, that gives us 17. So we keep the 7, and then we're going to carry over the 1 because that moves on to the next place value. All right, and now we're done with the hundreds place, and we're going to move on. So again, now we're going to add the 1, the 5, and the 4. So 1 plus 5 plus 4 gives us 10. We keep the 0, and we carry over the 1. All right, now moving on to the next place value, notice that one of our values does have a 0 in the 10,000s place value, and the other one has nothing. But altogether we have 1 and 0 here, and that just ends up being 1. All right? And now we're going to move to our next place value, and we only have an 8 here, meaning that we're just going to bring that 8 down because it's the same thing as 8 plus nothing, which just gives us 8. So now we have 805,959 plus 4,789. That's going to equal to 810,748. All right? All right, so let's talk a little bit more about addition. And here I have an example, 1,782 plus 48,542. And let's talk about the commutative property of addition. So what that means is if we change the order of the addends, the sum does not change. So if we switch these two numbers in addition only, don't think that it's for every operation, then the answer should be the same. So 1,782 plus 48,542 should equal the same as 48,542 plus 1,782. So if we switch them in addition, this property, the commutative property of addition, tells us that our answer will still be the same. So let's see if that's true. So here we're going to add both numbers, except we're going to switch the order and see what happens, all right? So here, even though I don't have my place value chart, we did line up the place values, and we're going to do both examples to see if that property is true, okay? Will we get the same answer? It should be true, but let's prove it. So starting with the ones place, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So we're going to move on to the tens place, 8 plus 4, that gives us 12. We're going to bring down the 2 and carry over the 1. So now we have, in our next place value, our hundreds place value, we have 1 plus 7 plus 5. That gives us 13, so we keep the 3 and we carry over the 1. So now we have, in our next place value, 1 plus 1 plus 8, and that gives us 10. So we bring down the 0 and we carry over the 1. And in our final place value, we have 1 and 4 here, and if we add those two together, it equals 5. So our final answer is 50,324. So let's see if we get the same answer now. So 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. 4 plus 8 is equal to 12. Bring down the 2, carry over the 1. 1 plus 5 plus 7 equals 13. So we're going to bring down the 3, carry over the 1. And now we have 1 plus 8 plus 1, that equals 10. Bring down the 0, carry over the 1. And 1 plus 4 is equal to 5. So we're going to bring down that 5. And so here we could see that the order of the numbers in addition does not matter. We still get the same answer. So this is called commutative property of addition, okay? So this is for addition. Don't try using this property for other operations. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about addition. So we have 5 plus 0, and the identity property of addition tells us that the sum of any number and 0 is that number. So any number plus 0 or 0 plus any number would give us just that number. Okay, and this is called identity property of addition. So that means if we had 8 plus 0, that would give us 8, and 0 plus 5 should give us 5, all right? It's whatever the number is being added to 0. So let's try that out, given 2 examples. So here I have 5 plus 0 and 0 plus 5. I know that 5 plus 0 is 5, and 0 plus 5 is 5. So if you take any number, add it to 0, or 0 and add it to any number, it will give you that number. So that's the identity property of addition, all right? And that's it for addition.